charity professionals and founder of Awen Coaching. My work really centres on helping people in the sector protect their well-being so that they can sustain their impact, because I truly believe that we can all do good and be well at the same time. And I am joined by the amazing Alex from Maybe Later, who's going to introduce herself because that's much less cringe.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Alex. I'm the founder of Maybe Later, and we work with purpose-driven organizations to help them build email programs that help them make money and that you actually love to run.
Amazing, thank you. And we really wanted to team up on this series. This is the second Grow Without the Grind. We did one a couple of weeks ago, which I think some of you came to, that was more around charities and growing their supporter bases. This one, as you'll know, is for you guys as amazing freelancers in the charity space. And we're going to be talking about building those client relationships and looking after our clients whilst we're also looking after ourselves. And we really wanted to team up on this because when I work with the charity freelancers, one of the biggest themes that I hear is just how heavy it can all feel. And when we're, lots of nods, okay. And balancing those multiple clients, saying yes too often, or just trying to keep up our income and keep it steady without burning out can be a real challenge. So my focus is always on well-being. It's helping people find sustainable ways to work so that you can grow your business and have a positive impact without losing your energy and purpose along the way.
And sort of from my side, I really see how marketing and our client comms really adds to that pressure. And I think we get pulled into this trap as freelancers and solo founders of having to constantly update people, and we're fielding a lot of last minute requests, and we're planning sometimes our own marketing and comms in a last minute way because we do it all. But actually, when we take the time to step back and figure out how to build a simple, joined up way to stay in touch with kind of our broader communities and our clients as well, it becomes more human and a lot easier to run, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think growth has a real connotation to it, that it means hustle and a lot of effort. And actually, this is about working differently with habits and systems that support your well-being while helping you grow and nurture those client relationships with confidence. Because we both really believe that growth should feel good. So by combining those clear habits that I'm going to talk about, thoughtful communication that Alex is going to talk about, hopefully it becomes energizing and not exhausting for you all. So, as we are all people that work in the charity sector, we wanted to ask you to pop in the chat a cause or an issue or something that you're passionate about. So it could be something you're already working on, something that personally inspires you. And I just absolutely love this question because I think it really reminds us why we do what we do, whether it's fundraising, freelancing, helping others to tell their stories. So we'll give you a minute just to kind of pop some of those in the chat. It's always really lovely to see the range of passions and causes that come through. I would say mine is probably charities that help people connect to nature. So I've got a really young family. I've got a 3-year-old and a now 9-month-old. And so our National Trust membership, going to kind of Forestry of England sites, spending as much time outdoors as a family really, really means a lot to me at the moment. It helps us feel grounded and restored in our busy lives. So that's probably mine at the moment. We've got some lovely ones coming through on the chat here. Good health, both physically and mentally. Emma, yes. Disability justice and accessibility to the arts, Steph. Vicky said, hope for the young, an amazing organisation supporting young refugees. Amazing. Giving power to local communities. Caesar, yes. We've spoken a lot about that, haven't we? Alex, what would yours be?
I think for me, like the two kind of the causes that I'm most passionate about are with organizations that are rewriting and reshaping the narrative around kind of international development,
Yeah.
and then also women's health. Those are kind of, yeah, two bits that I'm really passionate about. Yeah.
Absolutely. I can see lots coming through here. Arts and children and young people, helping, oh, Lizzie, helping new mums physically and mentally and emotionally. That's my yoga teacher, and she does do that for me. Oh, amazing. Love helping charities to build meaningful partnerships. Yeah. Queer, trans, and young people feeling empowered. Oh my goodness, what a lovely bunch of people you are. Amazing. Okay, let's dive in to what we're going to be covering today. So we'll start by looking at the reality of growth in the charity freelance world, what's happening in the sector right now, and why so many of us are feeling the pressure to do more with less. Does that sound familiar to you? Then we're going to move on to why well-being really must come first. This is a drum I will bang until my last breath. How your energy, focus, and boundaries really need to be the foundation for sustainable growth, not an afterthought. And then we're going to explore client relationships. So what it looks like to build meaningful, lasting connections with clients without losing yourself in the process. And we're going to share our 5-step plan to grow without the grind, a really practical framework that you can use straight away to simplify your work, strengthen your client relationships, and create a healthier rhythm for your business. And we really hope that with all of that content, we will leave room at the end for a Q&A and a discussion, because we really want to hear from you, your challenges, ideas, and reflections. So do pop any questions that you might have in the chat as we go along, and we'll try and kind of keep a view on that. So another question for you. How do you currently feel about finding new clients and increasing your income? You can use one word in the chat if you like. It could be excited, overwhelmed, happy, tired, stressed, avoiding it. It's 2 words, but we'll let you have it. Whatever feels true for you today. Hopeful, daunted, challenging, tough, awful. Oh, Peter. Okay. Hopeful but daunted. Yeah, both of those things can exist together, can't they? Absolutely. Conflicted, want to do good, but also make it a good income. Yeah, absolutely. Positive, excited, stressed, anxious. I feel out of my comfort zone. Oh, I like my comfort zone clients. Sorry, Steph. Yeah, that can be really nice when we've got those reoccurring clients coming in, can't it? But actually, to grow and get out of that can be really challenging. Stressed, challenging to balance that workload. Yeah. Okay. Thank you guys for sharing that. It's always so interesting to see the mix of excitement and pressure that comes from freelancing, because it offers us such flexibility, but that with that flexibility means that we are in charge of the boundaries that we create for ourselves. And I think sometimes we're not so good at stepping into that. So we're going to talk about that today. And it, you know, what you're saying there really reflects what we're hearing across the sector as well. For many freelancers, growth feels complicated right now. There's opportunity, but it's also exhausting. So before we get into the practical steps, let's just take a look at the reality of growth in the charity sector, what's actually happening, and why some of us are feeling so overstretched right now. Maybe pop in the chat 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, or all of them, if these feel like something that you've seen in the sector. So when we talk about growth in the charity freelance world, it's important to recognise the landscape that we're all operating in. Right now, the demand for freelancers is rising. More charities are relying on flexible specialist support, which is brilliant in one sense, yay, clients. But actually at the same time, budgets are often short-term or uncertain, and that can make income sustainability really hard to maintain. So pop a 1 in the chat if that's something that feels relevant for you right now. Many freelancers are also juggling multiple missions at once, working with several organisations in 1 month, 1 week, sometimes 1 day, which I really don't advise. But each of them has their own priorities, pace and pressures, and that can make it really difficult to find space for planning, rest, reflection, business development even, just a moment to pause. Pop a 2 in the chat if that is feeling relevant to you. Yeah, lovely. Not lovely, but thank you for sharing that. It's not something I'm just experiencing. There's also the issue of blurred boundaries. So when we care so deeply about our work, it's easy to try and over deliver, undercharge. We were literally just talking about this, weren't we, Alex? We can really feel the need to say yes to things, because what if something doesn't come down the line? What if next month is really quiet, and feel the need to kind of fill our diaries to bursting when the opportunities are there. So pop a 4 in the chat if that feels relevant to you. And of course, we live in an always on culture. So clients expect quick replies, particularly if you're working with a client that works Monday to Friday, 9 till 5, like say that's your person that you're interacting with. They might not hear from you for a week because you work 1 day a week. And that might feel like a really long time to them because they've been in the office or logged on 4 more days. But actually for you, you're getting back to them as quickly as you can. So actually setting some boundaries and setting some expectations is really helpful for that. And then that emotional load. So when we work in purpose-driven, when we work for the charity sector in purpose-driven organizations, it's not just professional, it's personal a lot of the time. And that line between passion and pressure really can blur quite quickly. So all these factors mean that while freelancing offers freedom and flexibility, which is lovely, it can also make growth feel unstable and exhausting if we're not intentional about the ways that we work. When we look at this all together, that 1 to 5 there, it's no wonder that so many freelancers in our sector are feeling overstretched. The work that we do matters so deeply, but the way that we do it has to be sustainable as well. And that's what I hope that you'll take away from today. We're going to be looking at growth strategies, client relationships today, but we need to talk about well-being, because your energy isn't just something to manage, it's the foundation that everything else depends on, because you are your business. So what percentage of freelancers do you think say maintaining boundaries between work and life is one of their biggest challenges? Pop in the chat a percentage. You could be thinking 30%, 50%, 80%. What percentage do you think? Nikki, 80, 99, yep. Very high, yep. So according to, because we love a source, we love facts and stats. So according to Freelance Informer's 2024 wellbeing study, it is around 68%. So nearly 7 in 10 freelancers are struggling to maintain healthy boundaries. And that doesn't surprise me at all. It's a lot of what I hear from my freelancer coaching clients. When your work is purpose-driven and flexible, the boundaries between life and work can blur really quickly, especially if you care so deeply about the clients and causes that you're working with. And I think we are all attracted to working with causes that we feel super passionate about, because we feel like that's where we do our best work, right? But this is exactly why well-being has to come first, because without it, everything else from creativity to client relationships just starts to fray. So when we talk about something like burnout, it's easy to picture it as something that's happens all of a sudden, like one big breaking point. But actually, in reality, and I've seen this time and time again, it's often a slow unraveling. For freelancers, the signs can be subtle at first. I really want you to take this away and have these there, so that you can look out for these both in yourself but also in your freelance networks as well, because we're here to kind of look after each other today, and make sure that we're recognizing these in others and seeing if they need support. So you might start missing client deadlines or struggling to complete projects on time. You might start working erratic hours, replying to emails late at night or skipping breaks because you feel like you need to keep up with demand. I've spoken about this before and it's ended up on YouTube, but I guarantee all of you have held a wee longer than you should have. Look at all those faces, they know it. Some people might withdraw from their networks, avoiding collaboration, professional development, putting off calls with other freelancers or clients. So I'm glad that you're all here today. I mean, that's a good sign. You might notice a decline in quality. So you might find yourself making small mistakes that just don't feel like you. We can all make mistakes, obviously, but if they're frequent and not your normal level, then maybe there's something there that's concerning. Decision making becomes harder too. Everything feels like a priority, which often leads to procrastination. And over time, motivation and creative energy can dip. And what once felt like a kind of meaningful client relationship can often start to feel quite heavy. You might also find yourself expressing frustration, fatigue, or even emotional detachment. That can happen quite a lot. Compassion fatigue is real. We can hear so many stories from the people that are accessing the causes we're working for, or just watching the news or anything right now. The world is noisy. We are privy to so much more suffering than we ever have before. So emotional detachment, compassion fatigue can be a real sign that you're running on empty. You care about this work, but you are just running on empty. So if any of this feels familiar, it's not something that you're alone in. These are really common signs that your energy is running low. That's exactly why we're talking about it today. And we're going to help you to build that growth whilst protecting your well-being, not draining it. And when you start to spot these signs, I think it's really easy to think that you need to push through or just get more organized. But actually, the truth is that burnout isn't a time management problem. It's an energy problem, right? And our impact depends on our energy. If we don't have energy, we cannot have an impact. When we're exhausted or overcommitted, the quality of our work and our client relationships starts to slip. And burnout has real costs. When we're running on empty, creativity drops, confidence dips, and connection fades. Boundaries are not just barriers, they are business tools. So if you take one thing away from everything I'm saying, I want it to be, please write it down. Boundaries are not barriers, they are business tools. So rest, clarity, and structure make your freelance work sustainable. And that's why growth has to start from a place of well-being, because you can't sustain your impact if you're not sustaining yourself, right? So I want to leave you with 3 very powerful, clear ways you can look after yourself while still building strong, impactful client relationships. So when we're working with charities, it's really easy to care so much that your own needs slip down the list. I've been there. I still struggle with this. I have a young family. I have clients I care about, a business to run. My well-being goes down the list very quickly. So I have to pick myself up on this all the time. But here are 3 simple ways to protect your energy while doing the work that you hopefully love. So first, set clear boundaries. Be upfront about your availability and response times, more specifically. It really helps to build trust and set expectations from the start of a relationship. Boundaries make you more reliable, not less. So you're not being expected to respond when you just would never, because you're working with another client. Susie, you're in the woods having a lovely walk. Like whatever it is, you're not replying to that client right now, and that's okay, but we need to be setting those expectations. So something that I recently spoke to a client about was checking your language. So try I don't work after 4 p.m. because it's much harder to argue with I don't than it is I can't. And if you say I don't, and someone still argues with you, you probably need to think about whether they're a good person to be working with. Second, plan in recovery time. This can be so tricky when we're trying to keep up with the momentum and we're trying to make sure that we've got income flowing in. But after big projects or campaigns, give yourself space to reset, to rest before starting the next big thing. Yes, very, very guilty to say I try not to. You've definitely said that to me, Alex. Give yourself that breathing room, right? It keeps your creativity and motivation alive. We spoke about this one for people that are more in-house 2 weeks ago about, not having a massive Christmas campaign and then it goes live and then it does well and then the next day they're talking about spring. And it's like, whoa, give yourself some time to breathe. Give yourself some time to reflect, to learn from what just happened. And that's so true for us as freelancers as well. If we're just always on to the next, we're not going to give ourselves opportunity to learn from what we just experienced. And the third one is to protect your purpose and your values. Stay connected to why you do this work. But I would often say, actually, more importantly, how you like to work. Stay connected to how you like to work. When you're clear on that, it's so much easier to make good decisions and to keep your energy and your time prioritized. Because you are your business, you are your own boss, you're self-employed. And sometimes I think we just have to remind ourselves that we decide when and how we work, right? And of course, we have to be collaborative with our clients. And if they only work a Thursday and a Friday, like that's when their meetings need to be. I get that. We have to be flexible. But actually, we're not in school Monday to Friday. We're not in a PAYE that expects us to be sat at our desks 9 to 5. Be creative with this. Give yourself the autonomy and the permission to create a way of working and a rhythm for your week that actually works for you. Which of these three do you most need to focus on right now? 1, 2, or 3 in the chat. Boundaries, recovery, or aligning your work to your values. I think the way that we build and manage our client relationships can either protect our energy or completely drain it. So it's really important to work out where we need to put our focus when it comes to our well-being. 3, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, and 2, 3, 3, 1. Amazing. Thank you, guys. I'm going to hand over to Alex now. We're going to do a little switcheroo on the old slides, so bear with us while we do that. And she's going to talk to us about how to really nurture these client relationships without the grind next, and it's great. So stay tuned.
Thank you. Whilst I do that, what do you do when? So I'm sure we've all been in this scenario. Basically, I'm going to take advantage of Bethany's free coaching quickly. So
you don't prep me for this, Alex.
When we talk about boundaries and capacity, and I definitely think that's something that I struggle with. But what do you do when you land up in a scenario like this literally happened to me today, where it's a dream project that I want to work on, and this classic love the charity sector with my whole heart thing has happened of, well, we just need help with, year-end appeal. And it's so all of a sudden, if I was
it's the middle of October.
Yeah. And if I was honoring my boundaries and the time frames that I know I need, I'd probably turn it down.
Yeah.
I'm so torn because it's a super value align, income, like we can't pretend that we can all only just do things when we want to. And it's hard. I know I need to protect my boundaries, but what do you do in a scenario like that?
I think you need a good old Rory from Gilmore Girls pros cons list. Keeping it autumnal. No, that's tough, Alex. That really is tough. I hear you. You're saying that they really align with you and your values and your business. I think you mentioned earlier that they've got good brand recognition as well. So it's a really good kind of client for you to have their logo on your website, a nice testimonial, and you never know, it might lead to further work as well. So it's a really enticing thing. And I would be doing you a disservice if I said you have to stick to your boundaries. There is no wriggle room. Your well-being is the only thing that we need to focus on, because that's not realistic. I think your well-being is incredibly important, but it has to be balanced with things like making sure that you're earning enough money to pay your mortgage, and making sure that you're creating a pipeline of clients that's going to see you into next year and things like that. So it's a really tricky one. My only kind of solid advice with that is just to manage their expectations, and to think about if there's anything you can take off your plate. So if there's any other projects that you're doing that aren't on fire and don't need to be done by December, could you have conversations with those clients to push those back to being a January job? That reprioritizing of timelines might give you a bit of wriggle room maybe. But if that's not possible, I think, yeah, talking to that client and saying, I really want to work with you, this is something that I want to do, but in order for this to be sustainable for me, it has to work like this, and be quite direct with how it needs to work for you. And if there's maybe elements of the project that you'll need more help from them in-house with than ordinarily you would.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's such a good reminder that it's, sometimes I feel like we're almost afraid of boundaries as freelancers, because we think that they're rigid, and actually they can be flexible, right?
Nikki's just said in the chat, is it possible to bring someone else on to help you deliver it as well? I've definitely done that in the past, and I know that you have too.
Yeah.
So that could be an option as well, for sure.
Thank you. Can everyone see my screen? Is everything being shared properly? Amazing. Okay. So we want to talk a little
Northern
bit.
pitch, Nikki says. Anyone want to join Alex for a
Yeah.
brief project by the end of the year? Pop it in the chat.
Right, okay. So, we want to chat a bit about, what does simple human-centered client engagement, and I think almost bordering that out, like community engagement, look like for us as freelancers in a way that feels really sustainable. But before we even look at that, I'm going to start somewhere slightly unexpected. And that is that I think that our custom avatars need to get in the bin. And you might think, oh, Beth, you were going to talk about email, and we'll get there. But one of my things that I've been thinking about for the last kind of few weeks in preparation for this is customer avatars are one of those like tools that make us feel productive. Like I've defined my ideal client, and I think whether we're 10 years in or we're just starting out, everything that you read, all the blogs, everything, it's all about like your customer avatar. But they rarely change how we sell or serve in a way that I think that protects us from that feast and famine cycle, or that helps us really build marketing processes that can help us grow without the grind. They often focus on demographics. And it's always things like, age, gender, income, where they shop, even when we work in a B2B space. And ultimately, that doesn't tell you anything about how someone thinks or feels or acts when they're deciding to partner with you or buy from you as a freelancer. My favorite example, and it was on, LinkedIn a couple of years ago, was the bit about King Prince Charles, because that's his name, and Ozzy Osbourne, and how demographically they are exactly the same. And it can be, and we, even if we're in the B2B space, it's so easy for us to just pick certain data points and make that our golden thread, when actually people within different organizations are also different. And I think when we stop thinking in avatars, we can build a foundation that kind of goes beyond just email. And basically, that human-centered engagement, and I think sustainable marketing, doesn't start with who your client is on paper, or who the main stakeholders you're engaging with on paper. It's what they're trying to get done in real life that's related to the problem that you solve for people. So instead of like my ideal client is Sarah, who's 36 and head of digital acquisition, who loves oat flat whites and hates dogs, Like we need to move to a place where we're going, and like that fits in like that fictional empathy category. We want to move to what I like to call functional empathy. And you are thinking about what's actually written on their to-do lists. Whether it's, someone who's staring down a year-end appeal deadline or juggling demands from different departments around like strategy realignment for 2026, what's actually written on their to-do list, because that's what's going to help us plan marketing and sales content much more easily. And one of the things that you'll get for being part of this webinar is I've created a resource that runs through each stage of the customer journey. So if you've read any of my content or spoken to me before, I'm such a nerd for journey thinking, and it's often I think we think, oh, we're just freelancers, so we don't need a customer journey. But if we take a minute to step back and map out all the different phases and what it takes to take someone from being a stranger to a client, and we map out what to-dos are on their list for each stage, it means that when we start to create content and when we plan email sequences, we're not starting from that like blank page space that I think so often we feel stuck in, or more so, I think it's that reactionary piece of, oh, my pipeline looks a bit cold, so I now need to go into selling mode. It's like actually that journey thinking can really help us take that step back and not plan and create things from a place, I think, of often panic and overwhelm, because we are trying to do it all. Like, I think, again, we don't talk about it enough. In a normal kind of like corporate B2B environment, no one's doing all of the marketing and all of the sales and the bookkeeping and the client delivery and trying to look after your well-being, like, and that's what we end up doing. So I think it's really important for us to develop ways of working that can really support us. So what can we practically change in terms of email? My first piece is that I want you to shift from send mode to system mode. And what do I mean by that? I think most freelancers and solo founders think about email in send mode. It's, I need to send that newsletter, or, I should probably announce that new thing, or like I need to send a sales email. I haven't done one of those in a while. And it becomes quite tactical and reactive, and it's very much embedded in the now. But the people who really make email work for them, the ones who grow without burning out, they think in system mode. And it isn't just about automation and tech. It's about understanding how email fits into your business rhythm. So things that you need to be asking yourself here are, what's the natural cadence of my projects and my sales cycle? So it's, how long do projects run for? How long do clients usually take to decide once they've received a proposal? We were just chatting in the chat earlier about how it feels like it's taking a lot longer to get things over the line, and I've definitely experienced that this year. And what's really helped me is I'm a big fan of Trello, but for every discovery call that I book, I literally just make a note of when that call was, when the second call was, when I sent that proposal, and how long it took to get over the line. It's not technical at all, but what it's helped me do is actually figure out how long is it actually taking before something gets over the line, and how long does it take then for that first invoice to be paid, because that really helps us plan our email marketing sequences in a way that reflect our real client process, but then also mirror their kind of customer journey. Another question is, when am I typically flat out with client delivery? And when do I actually need new leads coming in? And following on from that, what's happening for my audience during that time? So I know for a lot of us, we're really busy with delivery in Q4, and it's so easy to put marketing on the back burner because we're just too busy doing stuff. But if we know that like an average sales cycle is 90 days, we need to be nurturing people now with like storytelling and case study type emails, and just kind of staying top of mind, so that when they're in a fresh headspace for January and they're doing 2026 planning, or they've got a bit of budget left over, or what, for learning and development, that our email marketing has reflected that cadence and kind of that customer journey and experience. And when you start to have the answers to these questions, email, I think, really becomes like almost a strategic lever in your business, and it's not a chore. It's not just like, oh, I have to send that monthly newsletter now. So when you're fully booked, we're really busy with delivery. Are you switching up your content so it's about nurturing and educating people to keep them warm? When things go quiet, because if you've especially done that nurture and education piece before, how can you speed up the trust building to move people along a journey faster? And I think as freelancers, one of the things that I think we sometimes shy away from is that people are choosing to work with you. So how can you bring forward like that personal brand piece? And I know sometimes it can feel really cringe, and some of us wish that we could just do the delivery and just do the work. But it's, there's storytelling that you can bring into your work that can really speed up that trust building and delivery. Um, and that's really for me what that system mode is. You're not just sending emails, you are tuning your marketing into the rhythm of your business and the rhythm of the market that you serve. Um, and I think ultimately that's what takes it from being this extra thing that you should do to something that really helps you build up your pipeline and your relationships, and keeps your reputation as like a trusted expert alive, even when you're busy delivering. But then where is the tech piece? And that brings us, I think, on to number 2, and that's the automate the repeatable and then personalize the human. Where can you set up those light touch automations for things like a thank you email when there's a new inquiry? I've actually just spent time this week really personalizing my reminders on Calendly. So for example, I've set an additional 45-minute reminder. And because one of the things I've found is that because so often when people book those calls, we're just hopping from one task to the next. And actually giving someone a reminder that's where there's a bit of extra time where they can wrap up what they're doing and create a bit of space completely changes the mindset that they're in when they come to the call. And I'm also not worrying that I haven't sent them a one-off reminder. So I'm not having to hold all of that information in my mind. And it's honestly, even just in this last week, the difference that it's made to the types of conversations that I've had with people. And 2 people have mentioned that actually, like, I finished what I was doing 10 minutes early and went and made a cup of tea and then came and had this chat. And it's really changed things. And that's just happening automatically now in my business. I'd also have a think about those pre-call or pre-project prep emails. And again, when you wrap up a project, having those emails drafted for testimonial asks or to leave a review on LinkedIn. You really don't need a big fancy CRM to do this. I don't have one. I use a combination of scheduling emails in Gmail during an offboarding process so that I can remember, because I've got a checklist, and then I've got Calendly workflows, and then MailChimp automations. So one of my favorite things to do is, so I've got an automation for when a charity finishes a strategy program, like a course with me, they tip into an automation where they get these strategic checkpoints, and I'm just reminding them about what they've learned, and it means that people are reminded of and keep experiencing the impact of working with you long after they've wrapped up. So they're getting more value from working with you, but you're also really positioning yourself as a long-term kind of trusted partner and expert, and that's where you're keeping your pipeline warm with existing people. And then repurpose your thinking. You don't always have to rewrite it. You don't need new content for every single email. if you're posting on LinkedIn, even writing proposals, or sending, long client or DMs in LinkedIn, like that's absolute gold for content. Recently, one of my favorite places to look for content that I've turned into like really short emails, couple of sentences, is, and I ask people what's the one thing that they'd love to solve when it comes to email marketing, and just literally pulling out word for word what people have shared. So you've got that tone of voice mining and just answering that question in a short email. Like the responses have been so great. And it's not having to always think of something new. And that leads on to the fourth point, where it's, how can you use your list as a research tool? So instead of only just talking to your list, like how are you listening to it? Take a little bit of time to get comfortable with your email marketing data. It is the richest organic marketing and sales data source that you have. And it can help you decide what you need to sell next, which people pullers or lead magnets you want to create next. And I think here, this is one of my things where I love to say to other freelancers, think like a fundraiser, think like a business development manager, reach out to the people whose data is telling you interesting things. If someone's been on your list for absolutely ages and they're clicking everything and downloading everything, but they've never taken that next step, a 20-minute phone call with them can really unlock some incredible insights for you. And one of my favorite questions to ask on that call is, well, there's two. Like what's your organization working on right now that feels exciting? And then what's the one thing that you wish you could delegate right now? So even if that's not something that you do, that's where I think becoming that like network connector and recommending other freelancers again really positions you in a different way. And this doesn't feel like heavy ick sales work, but so much of this is all keeping your pipeline alive and helping you grow in a sustainable way by using your email marketing and your database as a place to kind of do all of your reaching out from. And then, how can you design your email as part of your client journey? So far we've talked about, email as a system that really saves you time and helps you keep things consistent. But I want to really zoom out and chat about a different role email can play. And that's how email is actually a sense-making tool for our clients. And what I mean by that, for most of our clients, email is the only consistent voice across their kind of entire experience with you. And your posts might bring them in, and your discovery calls probably convince them, and your delivery is definitely going to wow them. But email is the thing that really helps them understand what's happening as they move through it all. And that's when, if you flip the script and you really start thinking about that customer journey piece that I talked about earlier, email really stops them being about updates and promotion, and it becomes how you guide people and how you help them orientate themselves in the work that you're doing together. And to me, ultimately, that's what human like centered engagement really means. It's not just about kind of sending the right message at the right time, but it's about using data and a bit of automation to help someone feel really grounded and informed at every stage of working with you, because it has just a massive drive for, the quality of your work, their experience, how often they refer you and how often they come back. And really quickly, I'm so conscious of time. A note on email marketing if you work with corporate B2B clients, and that is that your email program, your newsletter, doesn't exist for sales to directly come through your newsletter. The likelihood of someone clicking buy now and booking like a 10-15 grand big strategy project with you, like that's not how this customer journey works. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because I don't want you to feel disheartened when you think, oh, I'm not getting the clicks that I want. If you work with corporate B2B, your email program exists to position you as an expert and to keep you top of mind. And it's really like it's a bolt on to your other business development activities. And then really quickly, If that felt like a lot of information in a short period of time, one of the things, like really practical things that I'd love for you to take away, and it's a tool that I use in every email that I write for myself and for clients, is empathy mapping. And for every piece of communication, I ask, what do I want my readers to think, know, feel, and do? And what that does then is it helps us kind of break free of what we think a newsletter should look like. We don't always have to cram it full with lots of updates and lots of buttons, and it doesn't have to like look the way that it has looked for the last 15 years. When we start to embed all of our content creation, not just in email, but across everything in empathy mapping, we create marketing and sales content that really meets a need. And I ultimately believe that, I think as freelancers and founders, it can help us do less and grow more. So how do we bring it all together, Bethany?
That was amazing. I particularly love the bit that you said around making sure that we're thinking about this as fundraisers, because I use so many of my skills from being a kind of relationship fundraiser, major gifts and high level membership, when I'm looking after my clients and I'm nurturing those relationships. And it's really interesting, the kind of comparison between those two worlds, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a lot there that's very similar. Lovely. So as we wrap up, we want to bring everything that we've covered together, because the message here is that you deserve to be well now, not later. And it's so easy to think that I'll rest once the project's ended, or I'll set some boundaries when I start working with a new client, or whatever it might be. But as freelancers, we both know, Alex and I, things rarely slow down on their own. And if they do slow down, then the panic increases of we need to get more clients. So is there really any downtime? I'm not sure.
You're absolutely right. And I think for me, it's also, the key is to really build systems and habits that protect your energy while you work and not afterwards. And that's that bit, like for me, from a marketing perspective, that journey thinking and the automations on top, and yeah, juicy storytelling as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say it again because I really want people to take this away. But boundaries are not barriers; they are business tools. When we create joined up strategy for how we communicate, it reduces our pressure on us and our business, and we move from that broadcasting to connecting, and from being reactive to being consistent, just by building in some of those automations and taking a breath and looking after ourselves. Consistency doesn't just support your well-being, it also strengthens your client relationships and really helps build healthier, more sustainable pipelines as well.
And I think also, one of the biggest mindset shifts that we've both seen, and I think makes a big difference, is remembering that we are in the business of human connection and not just output. And it can be so easy when you're wearing all the hats to get into the space where it's just about the doing and scheduling everything and all that stuff. And I think, like, linking back to what you were talking about earlier, Bethany, like I think it really disconnects us from our bigger why, and you can feel quite despondent when you accidentally put human connection on the back burner.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's when clients really start to engage with things like your LinkedIn content, but also your emails as well, is that when it's you, and it's your emails that are coming through, Alex, are just so authentically you. And I've had that feedback on my email as well. Someone said that it felt like they were receiving a warm hug from me, and I just think that's so important to come across as yourself in your communication with your clients, because you are talking to people and you're talking to decision makers, and they want to, they're going to work with you because of you as a person. And I think when you make the shift, the shift from kind of campaigns to conversations, It really helps your work to feel lighter too. You feel more grounded, less rushed, and you just get an opportunity to connect more to why you do this in the first place, which I think is really important to remember that why.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think, not only is it easier for us to create and to show up in a way that feels good, but you're creating marketing and sales content that really helps your client and your broader community ultimately feel really seen and heard.
Yeah,
And that's what I think when I share the to-do exercise, one of the things, well, that I hope that'll really come through is that when we flip how we plan and content and nurture people, it becomes so much less about like 5 top tips and all this stuff, and actually showing up in a way that helps someone see an email, be part of an automation, see a LinkedIn post and go like, Paula really gets me, like Paula
yeah.
gets what's on my plate. And it does so much for building those relationships and that trust.
Definitely, yeah. It is that human connection, isn't it, that's so, so important. And actually rest in between that as well. It can be really, really important too. Um,
Yeah.
Should we head to the 5 steps, Alex?
Yeah.
So we really wanted to, obviously look at the whole big picture today and cram this full of value for you guys. But it's really important to also break this down into something that you can go away and implement as well. So these small, simple actions that can help you protect your energy and really grow your freelance work. So I want to start with considering your energy first. So if you start by protecting your capacity before adding anything else to your plate, you can ask yourself, do I actually have the time, energy, headspace for this project or client? It's okay to pause, to pace yourself, and to choose sustainability over speeding through more and more work.
And that second point, about knowing your audience, and that might feel, but you think, oh, you just told me to put an avatar in the bin. But it's focusing on number one, the right clients, and that, that not everyone is the right fit, and that's okay. But that also, when we ditch all these complicated frameworks and we focus on that, like clarity over trying to be clever, in especially also how we talk about what we do, it just makes our message so much more clearer for that particular target audience and the jobs that they've got on their to-do list. And it makes it so much easier for the right people to find us.
Yeah.
And that kind of also brings us on to, mapping a customer journey that works for you. So think about how your clients come into your world, how they work with you, and how you stay in touch with them afterwards. The main thing here is that I want you to keep it simple and sustainable. Hope from like me sharing the tech stack that I use, Gmail, Calendly, and MailChimp, it doesn't have to be something really complicated. It's a process that works for you and your rhythm and your brain. And that's, that balance, I think, is what helps keep your energy and your goals, whether that's business growth or time you don't work or whatever that is, helps them keep them aligned. And then point number 4 is to make email your calm growth tool. So use email. Where can you use it to automate, to humanize and connect, and not just to broadcast? Even a really short, thoughtful follow-up or an automated welcome message can save you a lot of time, but really strengthen that client trust and deepen that client relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last one is to choose your next easy win. So we want you to choose one small, realistic step forward. Don't try and do everything that we've crammed into this hour. You don't have to overhaul everything at once. Small, intentional steps lead to sustainable change. Overwhelm is often too many ideas competing for our attention. So pick one and start there. And that brings us on to the next slide there, Alex. If you can write down one boundary and perhaps one automation or one email that you might want to write that you'd like to set before the end of the year. And if you're watching on YouTube on the replay, pick a realistic time frame for what you think would work for you. But what's one boundary you'd like to set before the end of the year? And it could be as simple as clearer working hours, a day dedicated to your business a month. Alex goes on dates. What did you call them? Maybe later dates?
And maybe later dates, and they've got
Yeah.
to be in a cafe,
Yeah.
because I think sometimes we can just feel like it's so weird sitting in our little home offices.
Yeah.
Yeah, I plan content, check in my quarterly plan,
I love that.
uh, log into my accounting software. It's a bit I don't
Like
like.
a really good way of me getting some time away from my children and my husband, and just to spend some lovely time with myself and my business. I'm gonna go on a date with Awen. And then, yeah, what's one automation that's going to make your life easier? Pop some in the chat if you'd like to share them. It could be an onboarding email, a project wrap-up template, a scheduling tool. So you guys all booked onto this call through my scheduling tool that I have, and hopefully you would have received, 24 hours notice, 2 hours notice, and the emails that I sent you as well, they were all automated. So it is possible to work this into a charity freelancer business. I know, because I've worked with Alex and I do it. So jot down something, pop it in the chat. It doesn't have to be perfect. The point is to make it small, meaningful, so that you can shift towards protecting your energy and creating more ease in your work. I'm really aware that we're at time. I
Right.
have time to answer a few questions, Alex, if you do. So if anyone
Yeah,
wants
absolutely.
to kind of hang around and ask any questions, you're more than welcome to. But if there's anyone else that needs to leave or go to a next meeting or school pickup or whatever it is, we totally understand. And thank you so much for being here. Do you want to pop to the next slide, Alex?
Yeah, go for it. Sorry.
No, that's okay. And then, yeah, maybe pop some questions in the chat if you can, guys. And let's go to the next slide, Alex. Lovely. So we just wanted to pop in at the end as well, while you're thinking about some questions, just to tell you a little bit more about how you can work with Alex and I. So I coach charity freelancers on a regular basis. I like to describe coaching with me as almost having like a head of well-being, which was totally Alex's terminology. So I have to give her credit for that. Someone who helps you step back, see the bigger picture, make sure you're looking after yourself and not just chasing your tail. And that's exactly what I do in my Do Good, Be Well coaching program. So it's a 12-week one-to-one coaching journey where we really focus on your energy, your goals, and how you can build a freelance life that's sustainable, not just successful on paper. So together we'll work through 6 fortnightly coaching sessions with email support in between, or LinkedIn DMs, whatever works for you. And we'll look at setting healthy boundaries with clients, strengthening communication, building your resilience strategy, and reconnecting with the bigger vision of your business. So if that sounds like the kind of support that you would like to help you grow your freelance work, you can book a free compatibility call with me and get those lovely automations to remind you that it's happening. And I would love to, yeah, talk to you about how we can work together. Thanks, everyone.
And for me, if you're stuck staring at a blank screen, wondering what to send, or you're not sure how to build your email list or where to start, you're not alone. And the way that I often work with founders and freelancers is one-to-one marketing mentoring. So it's just the right mix of having a cheerleader and someone who helps upskill you, but that also challenges you. And we do kind of a 4-month minimum, and we can do anything from mapping email journeys and automations to a newsletter strategy, campaign planning, or how to get the most from your data. And yeah, you can book a free discovery call if you want to chat and find out more. Yeah, and that's how you can work with me.
You should totally do that. I've done it and it was wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. We had a gorgeous